The courtroom was not like anything a human had ever seen. It was not built of stone or wood, but of strange living metal that glowed like fireflies trapped under glass. The walls were tall and curved, and shadows of alien figures stretched across them. At the center stood the human soldier, his hands bound, his back straight, his eyes cold. He had fought for his people, he had stood against the Empire, and now he was their prisoner. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at him from the high seats, some curious, some full of hate, others laughing at his fate. They whispered in their language, words sharp like knives. Yet he did not bow his head at the far end. 3 alien judges rose from their seats, their faces covered with silver masks. Their voices echoed through the chamber. "Human warrior, your crimes are many. You defied the will of the Empire. You killed our soldiers, you resisted surrender. Your life should end here." The crowd roared with approval, but then the judge raised a hand and silence fell. "Yet, we will not kill you. Death is too simple. Your punishment shall be different. It shall be endless from this day forward. You shall be shackled to one of our own. Every step you take, she will take too. You will never be apart." "This is your sentence," gasps filled the chamber. Some aliens cheered, others muttered in disbelief, but all turned their eyes to the warrior chosen for the punishment. She stepped forward, tall, proud, and burning with rage. Her skin was marked with battle scars. Her eyes glowed with pride. She was no servant, she was a warrior. Yet now she would be bound to a human. Chains of strange metal were brought forward, glowing with a light that seemed alive. The guards fastened one end around the man's wrist, cold and heavy. The other end snapped around her wrist. She pulled against it, but it held tight. The chain hummed with energy. No lock, no key, no escape. She looked at him with fury, her voice like thunder. "Do not think this makes us equal. Human. You are my shame, you are my punishment. Every step you take, I will be there, and I will make you regret it." The man only looked back at her. "Come unbroken, then walk," he said simply, his voice steady, his eyes sharp. The crowd erupted with laughter. To them it was a show, a cruel play. The proud warrior of their empire chained to the enemy, the human forced to drag his punishment with him forever. The guards shoved them toward the gate, the sound of their steps echoing in the vast hall. Step by step the chain pulled tight. Each move a reminder of their bond. She tried to resist, but the chain dragged her along. The human did not slow. Outside, the alien city spread like a maze of black towers and burning lights. Citizens gathered to watch, their voices a storm of mocking cheers. "Look, the human cannot escape. He drags her like a pet. She walks like his shadow." Laughter filled the air. The alien warrior burned with shame, her fists clenched, her pride shattered before her people. Yet she could do nothing. The chain glowed each time she tried to break free, binding her closer, forcing her step for step. The human walked forward without a word, his face unreadable. His silence was heavier than her rage. He did not boast, he did not gloat. He simply moved forward, and she had no choice but to follow. Night began to fall, the city lights flickered, and still they walked. The guards gave no direction, only pushed them to the gates of the city. "Go," one said, "let the punishment begin. The galaxy will watch you suffer together." And the gates closed behind them with a crash. Now there was only silence. The dark road stretched ahead. The chain hummed between them. She pulled again, testing, but it did not move. She turned on him, eyes full of fire. "I will kill you, human. I will drag you to the ground. I will make you crawl before me." He met her glare, his voice calm but sharp. "Then you will fall with me. And you will crawl too." Her breath caught, anger twisting inside her chest. She hated his calm, his defiance, his refusal to break. She wanted him to suffer. Yet already she felt the punishment was not only hers, but his as well. The road was empty, the stars above cold and distant. Step by step they moved forward, forced together. The city gates closed behind them with a deep echo. The sound rolled across the stone ground like thunder, and for a moment there was only silence. The human soldier did not look back. He simply walked forward into the open road. The alien warrior at his side struggled against the glowing chain, but every step he took pulled her forward. She pulled hard, her muscles tense. Her teeth clenched, the chain burned with energy, and she was forced to stumble forward. Her pride screamed louder than her voice. The warrior who once stood above others was now dragged beside the very enemy she had sworn to kill. Crowds gathered at the walls, their laughter carried on the wind. "Look at her," they shouted. "Our champion chained to the human. She walks like his shadow, like a prisoner." The sound of their mockery cut her deeper than the chain itself. The human did not speak. His silence was heavy, His steps steady, his face unreadable. He walked as if the road belonged to him, as if her presence was nothing. This calmness made her burn with even more anger. She wanted him to shout, to struggle, to suffer, but he gave her nothing. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in red fire. The chain hummed softly with every movement, binding them together like a cruel heartbeat. She tried again and again to stop, planting her feet into the dirt, but the chain pulled and dragged her forward. The strength of the punishment was stronger than her will. At last she hissed at him, her voice sharp like a blade. You think you have won? Human, but this is not freedom, this is not victory. This is a cage for you as much as me. He glanced at her for the first time since leaving the city, his eyes calm but cold. Maybe, he said, his voice steady, but I will walk forward no matter the cage. You can either fight it or walk with me. Her chest tightened with rage. She wanted to strike him, to crush him with her fists, but the chain glowed brighter each time she thought of harm, reminding her that this punishment was no simple shackle. It was alive, it knew her thoughts. It held her against her will in more ways than one. The road stretched into the barren wastelands, the ground cracked and dry. No sound but the wind scraping against the rocks. She had once marched with armies, with banners, with drums of war. Now she marched with only him, step by step, breath by breath. As night fell, the cold bit at them. The warrior's body shivered, though she would never admit weakness. The human stopped without warning, knelt to the ground, and started a small fire with sharp stones and dry grass. The flames flickered, weak but warm. She watched him, suspicious. Do you expect me to thank you? Human, she growled. He did not answer. He only set down the fire and sat beside it, his face lit by the glow, the silence between them heavy like chains themselves. After a long time, he pulled out a small canteen of water. He drank, then without a word held it out to her. Her pride screamed to refuse, her throat screamed for water. Her lips dry, her chest aching. She stared at him with hate, then at the canteen. Her hand shook as she reached out. The chain hummed, binding their motion, forcing her to sit closer than she wished. She drank quickly, the water sharp and cold. When she finished, she threw it back at him, her voice trembling, though she tried to sound strong. Do not think kindness will break me, human. I will not walk at your side as a friend. He caught the canteen, calm as ever, his words quiet but sharp. Good, then walk as my enemy, either way. You will walk. The fire crackled between them. The stars stretched above, endless and cold. Her chest rose and fell with silent rage. His eyes never left the flames, and the chain hummed softly, binding them together against the night. But the silence was broken by a sound from the shadows. The crunch of feet on stone, the hiss of voices carried on the wind. She stiffened, her warrior instincts sharp. We are being followed, she whispered. Her pride gone for a moment, her fear real. The human already knew. His hand moved to the blade at his side. His body ready, out of the darkness shapes emerged. Alien patrols, their weapons gleaming, their eyes hungry. There they are, one shouted. The human and the chained warrior. Capture them. Bring them back. The chain pulled tight as both the human and the warrior stood together, back to back, forced into unity by the very punishment meant to destroy them. The first soldier lunged. The human struck fast, his blade catching the light of the fire. The warrior swung her fist, the chain pulling her movement into his. Their attacks awkward but deadly. Strangers bound by chains of punishment. Enemies trapped in the same fate, and somewhere, hidden in the silence of the night, both of them began to feel the weight of what had just begun. A punishment not of days, not of years, but forever. Step for step, strike for strike, they fought as one, the chain glowing brighter with every motion. Enemies fell. The ground shook with the clash of bodies. She snarled with fury. He fought with silence. Yet together they stood unbroken. At last the attackers fell back, their cries fading into the night. The ground littered with weapons and shadows. The warrior panted, her chest heaving, her body aching. She looked at the human, sweat on his face. Calm still, strong still. This punishment, she gasped, her voice low, is worse than death. The human looked at her, his eyes steady in the glow of the dying fire. Then live, he said, and let death wait. The night swallowed their words. The chain hummed, and step by step, the forced march continued into the unknown. The night was long and the fire burned low. The human sat in silence, sharpening his blade, while the alien warrior lay with her back against the rocks, her eyes open, watching the stars. She could not sleep. Every sound of the wind felt like an enemy waiting to strike. Every beat of her heart reminded her of the chain that bound her to him. When the first light of dawn touched the sky, The human rose without a word. He poured dirt over the fire, slung his pack over his shoulder, and began to walk. The chain tugged, and she had no choice but to follow. Her pride screamed at every step, but her body obeyed the pull of the bond. The wasteland stretched before them. Dry and endless, the ground cracked, the air heavy with heat. There was no shade, no water, only the sound of their footsteps. She thought of refusing, thought of falling to the ground to force him to carry her weight, but she knew he would not stop. He would drag her like a corpse until her pride shattered. By midday, her lips were dry, her throat burned, her stomach twisted with hunger. The human stopped at a cluster of strange plants growing from the sand. He knelt, cut one open, and clear liquid dripped from its core. He drank, then tossed a piece toward her. She glared, her pride told her to refuse, but her body betrayed her. She caught it, pressed it to her lips, and drank the bitter juice. Her throat eased, her chest relaxed. She hated him more for making her accept his help. Hours passed, the land began to change. Broken ruins rose from the sand, the skeletons of towers and machines long forgotten. Their shadows stretched like giant fingers across the ground. The human slowed, his eyes scanning the broken walls. He sensed danger, she felt it too. Suddenly, from the rubble, shapes moved. Scavengers with sharp teeth and sharper blades, their bodies twisted by hunger, their eyes burning with greed. They saw the chain glowing between the human and the warrior, and they laughed. Bound together, easier to kill, one snarled. The human drew his blade. The warrior clenched her fists. The chain hummed between them, binding their movement. Forcing their steps to match, the scavengers lunged. The fight began. The human struck fast, his blade cutting clean. But the chain pulled his arm. Dragging the warrior with him, she cursed, swung her fist, and the force of her strike knocked two scavengers down. They moved clumsy at first, their strikes pulling against each other, but as the battle raged, their rhythm changed. Their steps fell in line. Their strikes began to flow. She kicked, he slashed, the chain flashed with light. Together they cut down their attackers. Their enemies fell one by one until silence returned. The ruins littered with broken bodies. Breathing hard, she turned to him, sweat dripping down her face. Do you see, human? This punishment binds us not only in chains, but in battle too. It makes us fight as one. Even when I wish to tear you apart, he wiped his blade clean, his face calm, his voice steady. Then fight as one, or die apart. She hated the truth in his words. Her pride burned, but deep inside a spark of something else stirred, something she refused to name. They left the ruins, the land rising into rocky hills, the path narrow and sharp, each step dangerous. The chain pulled them closer, forcing them to match their pace. She stumbled once, nearly falling, but his hand caught her arm, steadying her. She wanted to shove him away, but the chain held them too close. Night fell again, the stars bright and cold. They camped in the shadow of a cliff. The human gathered wood and lit a fire. The warrior sat with her arms crossed, refusing to look at him. Yet when he passed her a strip of dried meat, she took it without a word, chewing slowly. Her eyes fixed on the flames. After a long silence, she asked, her voice low, "Why do humans fight so hard? Even when the war is already lost, even when death waits at every corner." He looked at her, his eyes calm, his voice quiet but sharp. "Because we do not know how to stop. We fight because we must. We fight because giving up means nothing, and nothing is worse than death." She said nothing, her heart restless, his words echoing inside her chest. She turned away, staring at the stars, trying to ignore the strange weight in her mind. The fire crackled, the chain hummed softly, and the night passed. By morning, their journey continued through forests of stone, across rivers of dust, every step a battle, every mile a test. She hated him, yet relied on him. She despised the chain, yet feared to break it, for without him she would already be dead. And so the journey began, a march not of choice but of fate, a punishment that bound two enemies together, forcing them to walk the same path step by step, heart against heart. Yet in the silence of the road and the rhythm of their march, something unseen began to grow, something neither could admit, something that would change everything. The road stretched on, winding through broken valleys and sharp cliffs. The human walked with steady steps, his eyes always scanning the horizon. The alien warrior followed at his side, her movements tense, her fists clenched. Though the chain bound them together, her spirit still fought against him. For days they walked, through barren wastelands and silent forests of stone. The journey was hard, the air dry, the ground rough, but both endured. The chain pulled them closer with every step, their breaths falling in the same rhythm. their shadows crossing as one under the fading sun. But the silence of the road did not last. Word of them had spread. Whispers carried on the wind. Bounty hunters and scavengers spoke of the human with a blade, and the alien warrior bound to him. Many saw it not as punishment, but as prize if they captured him. Glory and riches would follow if they freed her. Honor would return to her people one evening. As the red sun bled across the sky, the human sensed it first. The faint crunch of footsteps behind them. The glint of metal among the rocks. He did not slow, but his hand tightened on his blade. The warrior noticed too. Her eyes narrowed. "We are being hunted," she whispered. From the shadows they appeared, figures cloaked in dust and steel, bounty hunters with cruel smiles and sharper weapons. They spread out surrounding the pair. Their leader stepped forward, a scarred alien with eyes like burning coals. "The human," he sneered. "And the chained warrior, our task is simple. Take the man, cut the chain, free the woman. Riches for us all." The warrior's pride flared. She raised her fists, but the human placed one step forward, calm, silent. His eyes locked on the hunters. The chain between them glowed faintly, humming like a heartbeat. The hunters rushed, blades flashing. The human moved fast, his strike sharp. The warrior followed, pulled by the chain, her fist smashing into the first attacker. The rhythm of battle forced them together, their movements clumsy at first, but slowly their strikes began to flow. Step for step, strike for strike, the chain became a weapon, glowing bright as it swung between them. Tangling blades, tripping enemies. The hunters cursed, their numbers pressing forward, but the pair held strong. Each attack blocked, each strike answered. The warrior snarled as she crushed an enemy to the ground, her voice raw. "You fight with silence, human, but your blade speaks louder than words." The human did not answer, his eyes sharp, his breath steady. He cut through the chaos like water through stone. The fight raged until the hunters pulled back, regrouping at the mouth of a canyon ahead. Their leader raised his hand, his voice sharp. "Into the canyon, drive them in, we will trap them like animals." The pair had no choice. Step by step, the chain pulled them forward, deeper into the narrow canyon. The walls rose high, shadows stretching long. The hunters spread across the ridges above, their weapons ready, their eyes filled with greed. The warrior's chest tightened. She knew this was a trap. She hissed at the human. "They will crush us here, we cannot fight them all." He glanced at her, calm even now, his voice steady. "Then we do not fight them all. We fight the moment." The hunters loosed their attack. Stones and arrows falling from above, the human pulled her close. The chain glowing bright, they dodged, they ran. Their movements bound together, their survival forced by unity. Step by step they pushed deeper, the canyon twisting, the hunters chasing from behind, their voices echoing. The ground shook with the clash of pursuit. The warrior stumbled, nearly falling, but his arm caught her, the chain pulling them both back to their feet. She looked at him, her pride cracking, her voice low. "If you had let me fall, you would have been free." He met her gaze, his voice sharp but calm. "No, I would have been alone." The words struck her harder than the battle. She turned away, her chest tight. Night fell as the chase dragged on, the canyon a maze of stone and shadow. The hunters still behind, their voices growing louder. The human and the warrior pressed on step by step, the chain glowing like a star in the dark. Finally, they reached a dead end. The canyon walls rising high, no path forward, no way out. The hunters closed in, their leader laughing. "The human dies tonight, the warrior returns with us." "The punishment ends here." The warrior's heart pounded. Her fists clenched. She turned to the human, her voice sharp. "We cannot win, this is the end." But he stood tall, his blade ready, his eyes burning with fire, his voice calm. "Not the end, only another step." The chain between them glowed brighter than ever, humming with power as if it too refused to break. The hunters advanced, their weapons ready. The canyon echoed with the promise of battle. And as the first strike fell, the human and the warrior moved as one, enemies forced together, bound by chains yet unbroken, their fate hanging in the shadows of the canyon. The canyon walls echoed with the clash of steel, the cries of hunters and the sharp hum of the glowing chain. The human and the alien warrior fought back to back, each movement pulled by the bond, each strike shaped by the other. What began as a punishment was now their only hope for survival. The hunters pressed hard, arrows raining from above, blades flashing from every side, yet step by step. The chained pair refused to fall. His blade cut swift, her fist struck strong. The chain glowed brighter with each motion, tripping enemies, blocking attacks, turning weakness into strength. At last the ground fell silent, the canyon floor littered with broken weapons and defeated bodies. The hunters fled into the shadows, their leader cursing as he vanished into the night. The fire of battle faded, leaving only the heavy sound of their breathing. The warrior leaned against the rock wall, her chest rising and falling. Sweat streaked across her face. She looked at the human, still standing tall, his blade stained, his eyes calm. "Why?" she asked between breaths, her voice trembling with both anger and something else. "Why did you protect me? Why risk yourself when you could have let me die? The chain would have broken, you would have been free." The human cleaned his blade with steady hands, his voice quiet but sharp. "Because if you die, then the punishment wins. I do not fight to free myself, I fight to keep walking. As long as I walk, no chain, no judge, no enemy decides my fate." Her heart twisted at his words. She hated him. Yet in that moment, she felt something she did not understand. She turned her eyes away, refusing to let him see the storm in her chest. They found a cave at the canyon's edge, dark and deep, shelter from the cold night wind. The human gathered wood, lit a small fire, and sat silently beside it. The warrior sat across from him, arms crossed, though her eyes kept glancing at him when she thought he was not looking. The firelight danced on the chain, its glow soft now, almost peaceful. She stared at it, her voice low. "This chain binds us. It forces me to fight with you, to walk with you, to live with you. But it also forces you, human. Do you not hate it as I do?" He looked at her, the fire reflecting in his eyes, his words calm. "I do not waste hate on chains. I save it for the ones who forged them." Her breath caught. His answer was not what she expected. It unsettled her, shook the ground she stood on. She wanted to argue, to strike him, but no words came. Instead, silence filled the cave, heavy but not empty. Outside, the night was alive with whispers of wind, but inside the cave there was only the crackle of fire and the rhythm of two hearts that beat closer with every forced breath. Hours passed. The warrior lay against the stone, her eyes half closed, but she could not sleep. She spoke suddenly, her voice softer than before. "Human, why do you fight? Your people are small, your world's weak, yet you stand against empires that should crush you." He answered without looking at her, his voice even. "Because if we do not fight, then we are already crushed. We are not the strongest. We are not the oldest, but we endure. And endurance is strength too." Her chest tightened. She stared at him in silence, the words echoing in her mind. They were simple, but heavy with truth. Morning came. Light spilling into the cave, they rose and walked on, the road twisting into hills and forests of stone, their bodies tired, but their steps steady. As the day grew long, they heard voices again, hunters still trailing them, shadows always watching. The punishment was no longer private. The whole land seemed to know of the chained pair by evening. They reached a river cutting through the rocks, the water swift and dangerous. The only crossing was a broken bridge of stone. The human stepped onto it, the chain pulling her with him. She cursed. "This will kill us," but he moved forward. Calm as always, the stones shook under their feet. The chain tugged them close. One wrong step could send them into the rushing water. Halfway across, the bridge broke beneath her. She slipped, her body falling. The chain pulled tight. She screamed in that moment. He threw down his blade, grabbed the chain with both hands, and pulled with all his strength. Her body swung against the crumbling stone. His grip held, his arms burned, but he did not let go. Her eyes widened, shock and disbelief filling them. "Why?" she cried again. "Why would you risk everything for me?" Through clenched teeth he answered, his voice strained but unbroken. "Because we are bound, and if I let you fall, then I fall too." With one final pull, he dragged her back onto the broken bridge. Both collapsed onto the stone, the river raging below, their breaths heavy, their hearts pounding. She lay beside him, staring at the chain between them, glowing faint in the twilight, her voice barely a whisper. "I do not understand you, human. You are my punishment, yet you keep saving me, protecting me. Why?" He turned his head, meeting her eyes, his voice calm but heavy. "Maybe because your punishment is mine too." The words sank deep, deeper than any chain. She said nothing. But for the first time, her anger did not rise. Instead, silence grew between them, not of hate, but of something neither dared to name. And so they walked on, step by step, the chain pulling them forward, their trust tested, their bond shifting, the punishment changing into something neither judge nor empire had planned. The river lay behind them, its roar fading into the distance. The human and the alien warrior walked on, their bodies aching, their steps heavy, yet the chain between them pulled them forward step by step, always together. For days they crossed lands of shifting sand and broken stone. Sometimes the sky burned with red fire. Sometimes storms of dust howled across the plains. The journey never grew easier, but something inside them began to shift. Something quiet, something neither spoke of. The warrior no longer fought every step. She no longer dragged her feet with hate. Instead, her stride matched his, not by choice but by rhythm. The chain hummed softly, less like a curse and more like a strange heartbeat. One evening they stopped at the ruins of an old fortress, its walls broken, its towers shattered. Yet inside they found shelter from the wind. The human built a fire. The warrior sat across from him, her arms crossed, her eyes watching but her voice softer than before. "You should hate me," she said quietly. "I was your enemy. I fought to destroy your people. Yet you share food. You give me water. You save my life again and again." "Why?" The human poked at the fire with a stick, sparks rising into the night, his face calm, his words steady. "Because hate is a chain too if I carry it. I am never free." She stared at him, her chest heavy. She had lived by hate, by pride, by war, yet his words struck deep, like a blade finding the softest place in her armor. The silence grew long, broken only by the crackle of fire. And though she would never admit it, she felt safer beside him than she had ever felt among her own people. But the peace did not last. Before dawn, the fortress was attacked. Bounty hunters again, drawn by the story of the chained pair. They came with fire and blades, their voices shouting through the ruins. The human stood, his blade ready. The warrior leapt to his side, fists clenched. The chain glowed as the hunters poured in. They fought together, their movements faster now, smoother, no longer clumsy. Their strikes flowed as one. The chain no longer pulled against them. It guided them. She struck low, he struck high. The chain swung wide, wrapping around weapons, breaking the attack. Their enemies fell one by one, their bond stronger than ever before. When the last hunter fled, the warrior stood, her chest heaving, her eyes burning with something new. Not just rage, not just pride. She looked at him and whispered, "I was meant to hate you, human, but this chain, it is changing me." He sheathed his blade, his face calm but his eyes sharp. "Then let it change you or fight it. The choice is yours." Her breath caught. For the first time she felt she had a choice, not of chains but of herself. The next days of travel were different. She no longer pulled against the chain, no longer cursed every step. Sometimes she even spoke first, asking questions of his world, of his people. And he answered in his quiet way, never boasting, never mocking, simply telling her the truth. She learned of his home, of oceans and mountains, of a sky filled with stars free to see without judgment. And though she tried to hide it, she longed for it, longed for something she had never known. One night, as they camped on a hill beneath the endless stars, she sat closer to the fire, her voice low, almost uncertain. "When this punishment ends, when they free us, will you go back to your people?" He looked at her, the firelight soft on his face. "If I can," he said simply. "But even if I never return, I will keep walking forward." Her chest tightened. His words carried weight that pulled at her in ways the chain never could. She wanted to look away, but her eyes stayed on him. The chain between them glowed faintly, brighter than before, as if it fed not only on their struggle, but on the bond forming between them. The warrior reached for it, touched the glowing metal and whispered, "This punishment was meant to break us, but it is binding us into something else." The human watched her, his voice calm. "Maybe the judges gave us more than they knew." The night grew quiet. The fire faded low, yet neither of them felt the silence as they once had. It was no longer heavy. It was something almost peaceful. But peace was never meant to last. The next morning, they reached the edge of alien lands. Patrols of soldiers stood waiting, their banners high, their weapons sharp, their voices shouting, "The chained pair, bring them to the council. The judgment is not finished." The warrior's breath caught. Her people stood before her, the very ones who had cast her into shame. Her pride warred with her heart, her voice low. "They will make me choose. They will make me betray you." The human placed his hand on the chain, his eyes steady, his voice calm. "Then choose, but know this. I will not stop walking with you or without you." Her heart twisted, her chest heavy. The chain hummed louder than ever. The punishment was no longer punishment, it was a bond, one that neither of them fully understood, And as the soldiers closed in, as the path ahead darkened, she realized that the change inside her was no longer something she could deny. It had already begun, and there was no turning back. The soldiers filled the road, their armor shining in the morning light, their banners rising high above the canyon wind. The human and the alien warrior stood together at the edge of the hill. The glowing chain stretched between them, humming louder than ever before. The crowd of warriors parted, and from their ranks stepped the council guards, their faces hard, their voices sharp. "You have walked far enough," the council waits. "Your punishment is not finished. Your judgment is not complete." The alien warrior's chest tightened. She saw familiar faces among the soldiers, comrades who had once marched with her, leaders who had once praised her. Now their eyes burned with shame and anger. "You are bound to him," one shouted. "You walk with the enemy. You dishonor us all." Her heart pounded. She wanted to shout back, to defend herself, but her voice failed her. Her pride wavered. She looked at the human beside her, calm, unbroken, his eyes steady as he faced the army without fear. They were dragged into the great hall, the same hall where her punishment had begun. The council stood above them, their silver masks glowing in the firelight. The crowd roared, demanding the human's death, demanding her freedom. The head judge raised his hand. Silence fell, his voice cold. "The chain has not broken. The punishment has lasted, yet we see weakness. The warrior no longer hates. The human still lives. This is failure, and failure must end." The warrior's heart twisted. She felt the eyes of her people. She felt the weight of their judgment. Her voice broke through the silence, sharp but trembling. "You gave me this punishment to break me, but it did not break me. It changed me. I walked beside him, I fought beside him, and I saw strength in him that even you cannot deny." The hall erupted with shouts, some in anger, some in disbelief. The judge's voice thundered. "You dare defend him? You choose him over your people." The human stepped forward, the chain pulling her with him, his voice strong, calm but sharp. "She does not choose me. She chooses truth. You call me enemy. But it is not hate that binds us, it is survival, it is will. It is the one thing you cannot take from us." The chain glowed brighter, humming so loud it shook the ground. The judges stepped back, the crowd gasped. The punishment that was meant to shame them now burned like a star. The warrior's pride shattered, not with shame but with something new. She turned to him, her voice steady, her words clear. "I was forced to stay at his side, but now I choose it no matter where he walks." "I walk too." The hall fell silent. The words echoed through the chamber. Even the judges paused, the silver masks turning slowly toward one another. The chain flared with light, brighter than the sun. It snapped not with sound, but with silence. The links dissolved into dust. The punishment ended, but the bond remained. The human looked down at his wrist, free for the first time since his trial. But his eyes turned to her. She stood at his side still, not pulled by chains, not bound by force, but by her own will. The crowd roared, some in fury, some in awe. The council shouted for order, but the moment had already broken the law. The punishment had become something greater, something they could not control. Guards surged forward, weapons raised, but the warrior stepped in front of the human. Her fists clenched, her voice sharp. "No more. If you strike him, you strike me. If you call him enemy, then I am your enemy too." Gasps filled the hall. The council froze. No judgment, no law had ever prepared them for this. A warrior of their empire standing at the side of a human, not as prisoner, not as punishment, but as choice. The human placed a hand on her shoulder, calm, steady, his voice quiet but strong. "We walk forward no matter who stands against us." Together they turned. Step by step they walked out of the hall, the crowd parting in silence, the council powerless to stop them. The chain gone, yet its shadow burned bright. Outside, the sky stretched wide, the sun rising over the distant horizon. Their steps fell in rhythm, not of punishment, but of choice. Their journey was far from over. But something greater had begun. The alien warrior glanced at him, her voice soft, almost uncertain. "What now, human? Where do we go?" He looked at the horizon, his eyes calm, his words steady. "Forward, always forward," and so they walked, side by side, no longer enemies, no longer chained, bound only by what they had become. Their punishment had changed everything, and in that change a new path was born.